Sorry ass gas stations be pissing me off. They don't have the receipts in the machine. We go to the machine so we can pay with our card so we don't have to come in. But we need our receipts. And then you push for the receipt and then a goddamn piece of paper, no. Then you gotta go in goddamn store and wait in line for the goddamn receipt. Makes absolutely no fucking sense at all. Might as well just come in and pay. Good morning. It's October 31st, 25. You're rocking with your boy in Loganville, Georgia. We're headed to Buckhead to install it's going to be the freezer evaporator assembly. So we're going back, put the part in today. I need to stop by the house to get my amp meter to see what kind of current he's drawing out there. But it looks like the unit is fine, but I'm getting my amp meter so I can show them mofo that what the current draw is. He said it's tripping 20 amp fuses. I left my amp meter so I can put it on that unit and see exactly what kind of current we pumping. Left my meter at home. I gotta run back to the crib chit level before it get crazy out here. Loganville is waking up. Get this motherfucker right in my goddamn way. They need a fucking turning lane. Do it! Yeah, this is where most of the wrecks happen in this neighborhood. They jump out in front of you. Get smacked in the head. We just got us a new turning lane because we agreed to put a gas station there. Now that's going to be all fucked up. For one turning lane, we're going to have a traffic jam as soon as that gas station open. Mark my word. Gas station open right in the intersection. Not down from it, but right in it. Dumb motherfuckers, man. My wallet in El Segundo. All right, let's get it. All right.
Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
And that's, that warms my heart, particularly as a black man.
Well, what's on your mind? What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about?
All right, guys. So Obama decided he's not going to endorse Abigail Spanberger, but he's going to campaign against her opponent, which is a black conservative woman. And now my nose is up in this. And now I want to talk about Obama. Okay? This is the guy that guilt tripped black men into voting for Kamala Harris, an Indian woman, not even a black woman. And he knew this, and he still pushed this narrative. The same politician who built his entire image on identity politics just exposed that it was never about race. It's always been about serving their masters. But this isn't the first time Obama's identity have sparked controversy for over a decade now. Probably more than a decade. Rumors have been surrounded both Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, from questions about past relationships to speculations about who Michelle really is. Now, before we go any further, everything I'm about to mention in this episode is going to be alleged. I am not accusing anyone of anything. What I am doing is walking through why people think what they think. So why so many people believe that Michelle Obama might not be who she says she is, and why people believe Obama's sexuality is Welcome back to the channel, guys. I am Carmen JC. If you're new here, make sure you hit the like or the subscribe button. Or if you want to support the channel, hit the super thanks or the buy me a coffee link below. Also, make sure you guys go ahead and drop a comment so we can stay in the algorithm. And I love to hear what you guys have to say. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so where do we start? So before Obama became the media's golden boy, he was just another name floating around Chicago. And in Chicago, there were whispers. People were calling him Bathhouse Barry because he allegedly used to hit gay bathhouses. That's where this story really starts. Okay, so let's go back to the 1990s, the late 1990s. That's when a man named Larry Sinclair claimed that he had a sexual encounter with Obama while Obama was a state senator. Now, at the time, Larry said that he didn't know who Obama was. He didn't know if he was a senator or a rising politician. He didn't know anything about Obama. He said he just hooked up with this guy because he was in town for a while. But here's the thing. Larry didn't go public until 2008. He started reaching out to the Obama's campaign in 2007, right after Obama began his presidential run. And when he finally came forward in 2008, this story exploded. It exploded because Obama made people in his campaign tell these media outlets that if they covered the story, that they wouldn't have access to his campaign. So obviously, the media didn't really cover it. Now, years later, in 2023, Tucker Carlson sat down with Larry Sinclair for a full interview, same story, same details, and still no lawsuit from Obama. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what Larry Sinclair had to say about Obama. Take a listen.
So you said, I'm looking for something to wake up. He knows you're referring to cocaine. I know where to get it. What happens next?
We get back in the limo. The driver takes us wherever it is that Barack had instructed him to take us. I had given Barack $250 to pay for coke. He gets out, comes back. I start putting a line on a CD tray to snort.
And you're in the limo?
Yep.
Driving or parked?
No, the driver's driving.
Yep.
I start to put a line on a CD tray, and I just happen to notice that he pulls something else out of his pocket. And next thing I know, he's got a little pipe and he's smoking. So I don't have an issue with it. I mean, some people smoke, some people snort.
Smoking the cocaine?
Yes. So as I'm doing a line, I just start, this is the part where you kind of make your move to see where things are going. So I just started rubbing my hand along his thigh to see where it was going, and it went the direction I had intended it to go. So the night became somewhat active sexually and drug-wise in the limo.
So you start rubbing his leg, and I think, I'll just be totally blunt with you, like a man who's not into gay sex would be like, whoa, settle down.
Trust me, if it was something that you were not interested in,
yeah.
And you're right, I've had guys that I read wrong that would literally try to break your hand.
For sure.
If you went in that route. So it's not like this was something that he wasn't into. It's not something that he was shocked by.
Yeah.
Shocked by, you don't get excited and you don't unbutton your pants and you don't just sit there and let it happen.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't Barack's first time. That much I'm absolutely certain of. And I would almost be willing to bet you it wasn't his last.
So you performed oral sex on Barack Obama. You did. In the driver's up front?
Yep.
And he's cool with it?
The driver has the partition up. He didn't have a problem with it. He didn't put it down for any reason.
I mean, he kind of set up the whole thing for this in the first place.
Exactly. And I have a funny feeling he had no bones to pick with it as far as what took place in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that escalated really quickly. But what's really sad about this is that Larry Sinclair actually died here in 2025. And in that interview, he also brought up another man connected to Obama named Donald Young. Now, Donald Young was an openly gay choir director at Obama's church, Trinity United, which he eventually separated himself from. He was murdered in 2007, just weeks before Obama announced his presidential run. Now, people inside the church said that Donald told them that he'd been involved with Obama and that he was scared once those rumors started spreading. And Larry Sinclair said he also received a call from Donald Young before Donald's death. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what he said happened on that call. Take a listen.
He said the first calls were, I was led to believe that he was with the campaign. The last conversation that I had had with Donald Young, he had actually come clean and said that he had been asked to call me and that his job was to get as much information from me as far as who I had spoken to, who I had given any information to, and to get that to them. He had told me to be careful, to watch myself, and to understand that the Barack Obama campaign was not in any way, shape, or form going to acknowledge anything or come out about anything. And he had made it clear that he had known Barack for quite some time and had had an intimate relationship with Barack for quite some time.
He told you that?
Yep. And that's when I knew that I could at least trust what I was being told.
Now, obviously, everything being said here is alleged and speculative, but it's interesting how the gay rumors seem to surround former President Barack Obama. And just when you think that's enough smoke, well, there's a letter that was written in 1982 the one Obama wrote to an ex-girlfriend, where he admitted to imagining relationships with men and exploring what he called same-sex fantasy. The letter resurfaced decades later, and instead of denying it, Obama basically said it was a part of his intellectual exploration. It reads, "You see, I make love to men daily, but in my imagination. My mind is androgynous to a great extent, and I hope to make it more so until I can think of people, not women, as opposed to men." And now when you line all of that up, this 1990s The Counter, this 2007 accusation, the choir director's murder, the bathhouse rumors, and Obama's own words, it's not hard to see why people started asking questions. Whether you believe it or not, the story didn't come from the internet. It came from Chicago. And Chicago remembers everything. Not to mention when Obama was in Indonesia as a kid, he had a transgender nanny. I am not kidding. All right, so after all of the gay rumors around Obama started catching fire, people's attention suddenly shifted to Michelle. And this is where things get a little wilder, because once the internet gets a theory, it does not let go. First off, let's start with Joan Rivers. Back in 2014, Joan Rivers was caught on camera saying, quote, "Michelle Obama is a transgender. We all know that already." Not long after that, Joan was suddenly gone, dead after a so-called routine surgery. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that the two are connected, but people online sure made that accusation. That one clip sparked a wave of so-called transvestigations that still haven't stopped to this day. Now, I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to that clip. Go ahead and take a look.
Mr. Rivers, how are you? You made a ton of news officiating the wedding in New York yesterday. Is this like a new cottage career move for you?
I'm so excited.
Okay.
And I should do very well because I don't choke.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman
we
president?
already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
No, Michelle is a
I'm sorry, she's a what?
a transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay. She doesn't.
Now, after that came the rise of what they called the transvestigation movement. Entire online communities became obsessed with analyzing every frame of Michelle Obama's life. Her shoulders, her voice, her walk, every single move. And yes, the infamous Ellen Show clip where people claim you can basically see a bulge while she's dancing. I am not saying it's real. I'm saying that's what people saw. And the internet ran with it. It took on a life of its own. Let's go ahead and take a look at that clip. All right, so after that, you started seeing a bunch of clips online going around with Obama calling Michelle Michael, or allegedly calling her Michael. Now, me personally, I watched all of those clips in full context. I think every time there's a reason why he's saying the name Michael, but he is not calling Michelle Michael. I don't know. This is from what I watch. Like, I'm going to show you one of these clips right now, so go ahead and take a listen.
Thank you very much. Secretary Panetta, thank you for your introduction and for your extraordinary leadership. To members of Congress, Vice President Biden, members of the Joint Chiefs, service secretaries, distinguished guests, and men and women of the finest military in the world. And most of all, Admiral Mullen, Deborah, Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today. All of you have performed extraordinary service to our country.
Now, there's also another clip people like to share where Michelle references herself as a man doing a clip with Marlon Wayans. And the clip was completely taken out of context, at least to me. She was calling herself a man. She was asking him a question about him as a man. And that too, like I said, was taken out of context. But since the clip keeps floating around online, I'm still going to include so you can see it for yourself. So go ahead and take a listen.
Well, speaking of parenting, I wanted to talk, Marlon, a bit about
just so proud of how you are being a role model for dealing with a child that's transgender.
Absolutely.
And that's, that warms my heart, particularly as a Black man. Would you care to share that journey of?
Well, I learned and their transition really taught me what real unconditional love was.
Now you can decide for yourself, but I want to go ahead and move on to when people started comparing the Obama's daughters to their alleged real parents, Marty and Anita Nesbitt. The theory went into overdrive. Again, I'm not saying it's true. I am saying what people believe when they start connecting the dots themselves. So I want you guys to look at these photos of Marty and Anita Nesbitt. And to me personally, they look like the children. They look exactly like them. And they work very close with the Obamas. So, I mean, to me, you can't tell me there isn't some type of resemblance there between the daughters. It is a little interesting, and to be honest, this right here is probably the closest thing that makes me believe that there might be some lies being told, but that is just me personally. Now, not to mention, Michelle Obama has been open about her receiving IVF to conceive her daughters. Now, I don't know exactly what that means or what that entails, or if she actually carried her daughters, but I do know that there are no public photos of Michelle Obama pregnant. Now, I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to the clip of her saying exactly that. Go ahead and take a listen.
Cutting our health care, taking away our freedom to control our bodies, the freedom to become a mother through IVF like I did, those things are not going to improve the health outcomes of our wives, mothers, and daughters.
Now, if that wasn't enough, Michelle Obama's involvement with Dwayne Wade's family and her public support for his transgender child, Zaya, only reignited the conversation. People started saying, of course she's pushing these messages. Look at her. It became the fuel to the fire. I want you guys to take a look at this interaction between Michelle Obama and Zaya Wade. Take a listen.
Well, what's on your mind? What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about?
Yes, I actually do want to talk to you about. I wanted to ask you one question about your book, which, by the way, I have read and I love it. It's divine. And yes, so I wanted to ask you, what advice do you have for teens who want to be themselves and thrive, like you have and currently are?
Currently,
well, like you have and currently are. I mean, I am just so proud of you. Being just an amazing role model and embracing your truth, right?
Now, to be clear, all of this is speculation. None of this is proven fact, but it is a lot going on around them when it comes to the LGBTQ movement and the LGBTQ community, especially with this Joan Rivers clip. I think that is another piece for me that just is I don't know what's going on, but they cannot seem to shake this narrative. Now, I know a lot of what we talked about so far have been speculation, rumors, theories, things that make you raise your eyebrows. But let's take a second to talk about things that are not. Let's talk about what Barack Obama actually did for the LGBTQ community during his presidency. Because regardless of what people believe about his personal life, what's undeniable is that no president before or since has done more to advance the LGBTQ agenda than former President Barack Hussein Obama. And even Newsweek acknowledged it, giving him a 2012 cover titled America's First Gay President. Just look at it. It is absolutely obvious where Barack Obama stands when it comes to the gay and trans community. Now, to be clear, that headline wasn't calling him gay. It was praising him for how far he went to elevate and institutionalize LGBTQ priorities in America. These are not rumors. They are official actions, executive orders, and policies that reshape the entire cultural and political landscape of this country. Now, let's go through just the top 10 things he's done for the LGBTQ community. Now, first, he repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He ended the military ban on openly gay and bisexual service member. That decision turned into the U.S. military into the first testing ground for gender and sexual ideology. He also stopped defending the Defense of Marriage Act, ordered the Department of Justice to stop defending it, and that move set the stage for the redefinition of marriage nationwide and pushed federal courts to enforce social compliance. He endorsed same-sex marriage. He was the first sitting president to publicly do so. That statement flipped national sentiment overnight and made opposition to same-sex marriage socially unacceptable. He signed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Act, expanded federal hate crimes protections to include sexual orientation and gender identity. This blurred the lines between disagreement and discrimination, where speech could suddenly be labeled as hate. He also did an executive order banning LGBTQ discrimination by federal contractors, forced private companies working with the government to adopt LGBTQ non-discrimination rules. That's how corporate America became activist, because compliance became the new morality test. He recognized same-sex marriages for federal benefits, redefined marriage across all federal systems. That redefinition didn't stop at the paperwork. It rewired family law, education, and even adoption standards. He celebrated the Supreme Court marriage equality decision. Obama didn't just endorse the ruling, he lit the White House up in rainbow colors. That night was the visual announcement that the culture war has officially been lost. He also supported the transgender student protection, directed public schools to allow students to use bathrooms aligning with their gender identity. That's why parents are fighting school boards today. It started here, right with Obama. He lifted the ban on transgender military service, allowed transgender individuals to serve openly. That policy normalized identity politics within the national defense, making pronouns more important than performance. And another thing he did was declare the Stonewall in a national monument. He's cemented LGBTQ history in federal memory. That symbolic act redefined civil rights itself, shifting focus from equality under law to identity validation. So while people argue about the rumors, these are the receipts. Obama didn't just support the LGBTQ movement, he institutionalized it. He made it a permanent fixture in American culture, law, and diplomacy. And to be honest, when you look at this list, it's not hard to see why people started asking deep questions about who Barack Obama really was, not just as a man, but as a symbol. A lot of the things you're seeing right now, men in a girl's bathroom, biological males in women's sport, gender ideology in school, yeah, it started under the Obamas. This is what I'm trying to get everyone to understand. Obama initiated all of this. Everything that is wreaking havoc on us right now, it started with those Obamas. The reason why I'm exposing the Obamas is simple. People need to wake the F up. They are not who they appear to be. They're not on your team. And they're definitely not on God's side. They are here to steer you wrong, to make evil look righteous, to make confusion look progressive, and to make destruction look like hope and change. From gender confusion to the breakdown of family, even the rival of racial division, it all traces back to this era. Before Obama, people weren't this obsessive with race. He made identity a weapon, and Michelle made dysfunction look inspirational. And together they sold deception in a designer suit. So to be clear, this isn't about rumors. It is about truth. The Obamas left the White House, but their systems didn't. It's still here, rewriting morality, reshaping culture, and calling it progress. And it's time for people to stop worshiping them and start asking questions what they are really representing. I am Carmen JC. If you're new here, make sure you hit the like or the subscribe.
Good afternoon, everybody. A little bit of history before I get to what we're releasing today. I started the investigation into Arctic frost July 2022 based on whistleblower disclosures. Based on these disclosures, we know that weaponized taxpayer-funded agents and prosecutors advanced the investigation. As Arctic frost advanced, 92 Republican organizations or individuals were targeted, not just Trump. And they were added to its scope. And author of that targeting list was Special Agent Walter Giardino. He's the same weaponized agent who was involved in other cases against Republicans, including Peter Navarro. We've learned Jack Smith secretly obtained phone record data from at least 8 senators and 1 congressman. I've recently been informed by Verizon that at least 11 members with Verizon accounts were affected. That includes a hard line for Senator Cruz's office and a staffer cell phone for former Senator Loeffler. AT&T informed me they challenged the legal basis for Jack Smith's efforts, and Smith backed down. So today, we're making public new records that I've obtained through legally protected whistleblower disclosures. 197 subpoenas were issued by Jack Smith and his team. These subpoenas were issued to 34 individuals and 163 businesses, including financial institutions. And one of the points of contact on many of these subpoenas was that person I previously named, Special Agent Walter Giardino. The subpoena requested records and communications related to over 430 individual and organizations. All of them appear to be aimed at Republicans. A subpoena to Event Strategies requested records relating to Turning Point USA and the Republican Attorney General's Association. One subpoena to Apple sought records relating to Trump and the January 6th prison choir. Earlier this year, I obtained emails between and among J.P. Cooney, one of Jack Smith's prosecutors. That email exchange was March 2023 about a partisan news article on January 6th, and this is what Cooney said in the email. Can we do some work to nail down Trump's role in this, perhaps with the same process on Ed Henry's LLC, end quote. Just the next month, April 2023, Jack Smith and his team subpoenaed Apple for records relating to the very issue. A subpoena to an individual sought records and communications with, quote, any member, employee, or agent of the legislative branch of government, end of quote. Another subpoena to an individual sought records relating to communications with media companies such as CBS, Fox News, Fox Business, Newsmax, Sinclair, and others. Other subpoenas to a bank, individual, and business sought records relating to White House advisors Stephen Miller, Dan Scavino, Jared Kushner, and Lara Trump. Some subpoenas to individuals and businesses sought statistical data and analysis relating to donors and fundraising efforts. Arctic Frost was the vehicle by which FBI agents and DOJ prosecutors could improperly investigate the entire Republican political apparatus. Contrary to what Smith has said publicly, this was clearly a fishing expedition. If this had happened to Democrats, they'd be as rightly outraged as we are outraged. We're making these records public in the interest of transparency and so that the American people can draw their own conclusions. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. I want to thank the chairman. I want to thank his staff for their tenacity and their cooperation in all of our joint investigations. I think it's important to note that the records that we are now making public and for purpose of transparency were not obtained from the agency. They were obtained through a whistleblower. So my first point is we need more whistleblowers. We need people, men and women inside these agencies who have integrity, who want to see the integrity and credibility of the Department of Justice, of the FBI restored, come forward. Because right now I think Cash Patel, Pam Bondi are overwhelmed by all the messes they're trying to clean up. The agencies have been, lost a lot of personnel. People simply couldn't serve the Trump administration. It's hard to hire people because of all the lawfare. And there's still partisan actors burrowed in trying to sabotage their efforts. So we need whistleblowers. The reason they come forward to Chairman Grassley is because he's been such a champion of whistleblowers. So again, I thank him for that. What is revealed in those 1,700 pages of documents, in those 197 subpoenas, is nothing short of a Biden administration enemies list. I'm old enough to understand how toxic a term that was under Richard Nixon. This is far worse, orders of magnitude worse. People need to understand how politicized the Biden administration turned all these agencies. And again, the best way to describe President Biden's attitude were his exact quotes. We thought basically half America were domestic terrorists. In September 2022, in front of Independence Hall, he said, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. A year later in New York City, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. That is a level of paranoia that's actually astonishing. But the fact that 38 Wisconsinites are on that enemies list, I know most of those individuals. They are God-fearing, country-loving, law enforcement supporting people who want to see America succeed. The fact that they are on a Biden administration enemies list, were targeted by that administration, is outrageous. It should shock every American. And so I am calling on, and I appreciate all the members of the Judiciary Committee, we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to do everything we can to assist Director Patel and AG Bondi in making sure that they have the staff to take control over these agencies. That they're the heads of them. I don't think they have the control. I think they're being sabotaged within. But the American people need to understand exactly what happened. And again, I'm calling on members of the Judiciary Committee to help Senator Grassley and myself get to the bottom of this so we can expose this, so this doesn't happen again in America. This has to end. With that, I'll turn it over to Senator Cornyn.
I want to thank Senator Grassley and Senator Johnson for their perseverance in this investigation. This is the United States of America. It's not a banana republic. It's not a country that condones partisan lawfare against your political opponents. We don't have the time to go through all of the many ways that the Democratic Party and President Trump's opponents tried to target him and tried to destroy him, including people like James Comey, who single-handedly wanted to get a special counsel appointed, where a 2-year investigation followed with no result, no evidence of any legal violation. But I can't think of any greater evidence of weaponization in the fact, as you heard from Senator Grassley and Senator Johnson, this extended far beyond President Trump and extended to President Trump's supporters, not only here in the United States Senate, but more broadly. Jack Smith did not act alone. Yes, he was a special counsel. He was appointed by Merrick Garland, and he had responsibilities to report to Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, Joe Biden's Attorney General, under the rules regarding special counsel. Merrick Garland was a member of Joe Biden's cabinet. He was willing to do whatever Joe Biden and his political operation wanted him to do, including destroying President Trump, including abusing our justice system for partisan purposes. And here, to me, is the most troublesome part of all this. If they would do that to the President of the United States, if they would do this to United States senators and members of Congress, what would they do to you? people who don't enjoy the bully pulpit or the platform that elected representatives have. This ought to be a chilling message to each and every American who loves this great country and believes in our constitutional system and equal justice under the law. Thank goodness for Senator Grassley and Senator Johnson for their investigation, but we will get to the bottom of this. Senator Cruz.
Arctic frost is Joe Biden's Watergate. Merrick Garland was a fundamentally corrupt attorney general. Jack Smith was a fundamentally corrupt prosecutor. This was a political enemies list from the beginning. 197 subpoenas for 430 Republican entities and individuals. That is an absolute and egregious abuse of power. The Biden Justice Department signed off on issuing subpoenas for the phone records of at least 9 U.S. senators. 20% of the Republicans in the United States Senate were the target of this fishing expedition. They did so in complete contravention of the Constitution, of separation of powers, of the speech and debate clause, of free speech, of basic rights of privacy. This is an executive who believes it is justified spying on their opponents in the legislature because they convince themselves the ends justify the means. I want to talk to you about one of those subpoenas. One of those subpoenas went from Jack Smith to AT&T, seeking my cell phone communications. It went to AT&T, and I actually want to commend AT&T for doing the right thing. AT&T is based in Texas. AT&T looked at that subpoena, and they went to their legal counsel, and they said, what should we do with that subpoena? And their legal counsel said, you cannot comply because this is protected by the speech and debate clause of the U.S. Constitution. And so AT&T declined to comply, did not hand over my cell phone records. Now, one might ask, ordinarily, a phone company being asked to hand over the phone records of a sitting senator would notify that senator. Well, there was a reason AT&T did not do so. Accompanying the subpoena was an order, which I have in my hand right here, an order that was signed by Judge James E. Boasberg. Now, who is Boasberg? Boasberg is that radical leftist judge who is out of control, who has been issuing nationwide injunctions, one after the other, trying to stop President Trump from carrying out his mandate from the voters. Judge Boasberg issued an order to the U.S. to AT&T and signed that order, prohibiting AT&T from informing me of this subpoena for at least 1 year. And Judge Boasberg gave the basis for that order, and I'm going to quote from the order Judge Boasberg signed. The court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. That's an order a judge signed. Now, I can tell you right now, there is precisely zero evidence to conclude that I am likely to destroy or tamper with evidence or to intimidate potential witnesses. Zero evidentiary basis for that. This order is an abuse of power. This order is a weaponized legal system. My assumption, we don't have the subpoenas that were issued for the other senators, but my assumption is Judge Boasberg printed these things out like the placemats at Denny's, one after the other. We don't know that for a fact, but I feel confident that he concluded it's likely that Lindsey Graham would destroy evidence, and Marsha Blackburn would destroy evidence, and Eric Schmidt would destroy evidence, and Chuck Grassley would destroy evidence. If a litigant makes a claim for which there is no factual basis, that litigant is subject to sanctions in federal court. And if a judge signs an order reaching a factual conclusion for which there is zero evidence whatsoever, that judge is abusing his power. I am right now calling on the House of Representatives to impeach Judge Boasberg. Judge Boasberg put his robe down, stood up and said, sign me up to be part of the partisan vendetta against 20% of the Republicans in the Senate. That is a dereliction of duty and a violation of the judicial oath. And I want to thank Chairman Grassley and Chairman Johnson for pursuing this tenaciously like a dog on a bone. We are going to get the answers of every person who signed off on this abuse of power, and mark my words, there will be accountability for these zealots who wanted to corrupt the Department of Justice and corrupt the judiciary in order to try to attack their enemies list. That is unconstitutional, it is immoral, and it is wrong. Senator Kennedy.
I'm next.
We didn't have you on the list, you said down here.
Well, I'm one of those senators that did have their records revealed. Verizon is my wireless carrier, and Verizon never challenged, never moved to quash. They complied with the subpoena that went forward on our records. Now, Ted talked about the speech and debate clause. This is also a violation of our First Amendment and Fourth Amendment rights. It is a violation of the separation of powers. It is a violation of the Stored Communications Act. I am looking forward to bringing Jack Smith before us. I am looking forward to bringing the wireless companies before us and finding out exactly what happened. No citizen of the United States should ever be subject to treatment like this. And as Senator Cornyn said, if they are doing this to us, what did they do to all the moms and dads that went to school board meetings? What did they do to the pro-lifers that stood on the sidewalk and held a sign? What did they do to people that were supporting President Donald Trump, or people that were supporting Republican candidates? Jack Smith moved forward after Christopher Wray wrote a memo on April 4th of 22. And you all should read the memo. It is how to write, it's going to be textbook for how to write a fishing expedition memo. Nebulous, vague language, alleging, assuming, things that should never be done. And then Lisa Monaco puts her mark on it, encouraging Merrick Garland to sign it so that they could put Jack Smith in as a special counsel. Thank goodness Kash Patel has fired every single person that was in that CR-15 unit, every single one of them. But we need to have hearings. We have encouraged the DOJ to refer Jack Smith to the Office of Professional Conduct, and they need to work with us to provide the documents so we can have a more fulsome picture about what has transpired with this. It is worse than Watergate. It is deep, it is wide, and we are just beginning to scratch the surface. Okay, and Schmidt.
Well, Lindsay, go ahead.
Lindsay.
No, we'll do it by height. That'll go.
You're on the short end of that one.
Yeah, I'm closer to the earth. So here's what I'm thinking about. If Trump had not run in 2024, would any of this happen? No. So what I want to explain to the people of the country is that within several days of him announcing, I'm going to seek the White House again, an avalanche began to form. And I really do believe that none of this would have been happening if Trump had set out the 2024 cycle. But once he announced, I'll have my own, we'll show you what happened and when it happened. Within about 8 months of announcing, he had 91 felony charges against him in Georgia and New York and other places. So here's what I think, that when he said he wanted to have a political comeback, it triggered the Democratic machine to destroy him before he could ever get started. And in their effort to destroy him, there were no boundaries. The goal was to stop Trump and to look at anything and everything that could stop Trump and ignore the Constitution and a lot of other things. I was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee in January 2021. I don't know about you, but I'm offended that somebody in 2023 would subpoena my phone records to find out where I was at when I called somebody and who I called and where they were at. It's not their damn business. I have a constitutional duty, like the rest of us here, as chairman of the committee regarding the 2020 election. I don't think the 2020 election bothered anybody until Trump decided to run in 2024, legally. So what I want to do is pursue what happened system-wide. Was there contact between Jack Smith and Fani Willis? I got caught up in that crap. I'd spent over $1 million. Now she's been kicked off the case. Was there a coordination between Jack Smith, Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James? Did they talk? Did they share information? Is it just an accident that all this happened within days of Trump announcing, and within 8 or 9 months, the Republican candidate, one of the candidates for president, had 91 felony charges in the deepest blue districts in the friggin' country? You think that happened by accident? I don't think so. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. And I want to know, was there any coordination between Fani Willis and New York by Jack Smith? We're going to get every piece of paper we can get. And I want Jack Smith to come forward, but I want the information first. He's not coming and testify when we're in the dark to the Justice Department. Please expedite the requests made by Senator Grassley and Johnson to give us any information that may exist between Jack Smith and Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, and Letitia James. I want to know, did they talk? If they talked, what did they talk about, and when did they talk? As to me, I want to know why Verizon did the opposite of AT&T. I want to know what they asked for and how deep and how wide it went. Now, I want to know if there's an order signed by a federal judge basically slandering me, saying you can't tell Lindsey Graham because he'll do bad things. Now, if that happened, I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to give it a pass, nor is Ted or the rest of us. So we're going to get to the bottom of it for the benefit of the future. If this can happen to Trump, it can happen to anybody that the system doesn't like. And the system one day can come after you, is what's being said here. So people literally need to pay a price for this. Some people may need to go to jail. Some people may need to be fired. But if they violated my constitutional rights, if they trampled on the separation of powers involving me, I'm going to sue the hell out of these people.
You heard it. It's going down because this shit with Joe Biden, weaponizing the government against Donald Trump to prevent him from getting back in office. That shit boomeranged on their ass. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. And there's going to be some people in jail in 2026. It's your boy Doug. We'll be back later. I'm a little early for my first stop. And you guys get up, put some clothes on, get up, do something for yourself. If not nothing at all, do something for yourself.